Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Today on Collection Lessons, I want to talk about sunk cost theory. It's part of my Collection Lessons series. Anything I say in this channel is not anything advice, and let's get going. So I want to talk about sunk cost theory because it happens a lot in life, in careers. It's based on the sunk cost fallacy, which is basically like when you, let's say, I don't know, buy a movie ticket, right, for 20 bucks, and then something comes up that you probably should do instead, but you feel like you're already committed to the movie theater because you spent 20 bucks. You got to get your money's worth out of it, right? Like, you just have to do it because you already have that kind of, like, you think of it as an investment. I'm already, like, invested into the movie theater, so I must go to it because I paid, right? And it's interesting when it applies to these things. And so that's just kind of one example of, like, the sunk cost fallacy, right? Is like, I already started, therefore I should keep going in this direction. And that's the problem, and that's what holds people back from success, essentially, right? Like if you were like in a timeline, in a sense, and you went to school here and you spent 20K on school, like in computers, right? Then you just, this is your timeline. This is where you branched off, and you're like, well, I'm in computers, therefore I spent 20K. So from age 20 to 65, I must get my money's worth that I put into this, the 20K, and I must continue to do computers, right? And like, that's basically what I spent, right? I spent that at 20, and now, at 30s, in my 30s, it's like, once I realize the whole point of the job is to retire, it's like, well, what gets me the quickest way to retirement? Do you think it's this timeline that I created of computers? Well, so far, it's, been decent, and it's helped me get debt free and everything. It's like, it's got benefits to it, of course. But the only way to retire is to have some sort of passive income. Otherwise, you'll just be saving up, and then hopefully you just don't run out of money when you retire, right? So it's like, in careers, the sunk cost theory is basically, well, I have my, at age 20, I have 100K of debt, right? Let's put this as 100K of debt. I got my master's, I got my bachelor's degree, I got my whatever, all those certificates and diplomas and degrees that are on the wall they're just debt receipts. Like, if you look at them they're just debt receipts, right? They just show how much you spent at a school. That's all they do. And you're like, well, yeah, but I passed and whatever. Yeah, sure, anybody can pass, right? But like, if you realize that it's like, well, I didn't need to go into debt to get retired, which is the whole point of a career and a job, right? It's like, why don't you just, like, you're already 100K in to be, like, I don't know, a doctor or to be an engineer or whatever, and it's like, oh, I already spent this 100K at 20, therefore for the rest of my life I must be an engineer. It's like, no, that's the sunk cost theory right there, right? It's like, well, what if I told you about making money on a different way, where you work maybe 5-10 hours a week, and you can retire, and you just reduce your expenses, and you just live life rather than stuck in the, timeline that you feel like you have to be. And that's just a career sunk cost theory. There's other ones like this is career, right? Yours are like career. You feel like you're stuck in that thing because you spend money at 20, when you were 20, however much money that is. Other ones is like cars, like vehicles, right? People are like, well, this vehicle's worth, let's say this vehicle's worth 10K, and you're gonna have to fix it for 4K, so you do that, and then you feel like you must stick with the car because you just spent 4K on it. It's like, no, it's probably gonna spend, you're probably gonna have to spend 4K every year to keep it going, because it's a piece of crap. Like, but people will get, stuck in that. They're like, well, I'm already invested 4K, and then another year goes by, and they're like, well, I just had to, invest another 4K to keep it going, and then they keep this car for 20 years spending 4K, so they spend 80K on a car that's only worth 10K in the end, right? That's sunk cost theory. It's like, well, I already spent this much. I've already spent this much. I've already spent this much. I might as well keep going. It's kind of like if there's a road and it's like you make a right turn and you're like, the world hopefully is like round. It's like a ball, right? And it's like, well, if I just keep going in this direction, I'll eventually get there because I'll just go around the whole world again and come back. It's like, no, if you just turn around, you could be there in like 5 minutes. But no, you're going to continue on life for the next like 60 years and go the wrong way so that you feel like you have to go that way because you don't want to turn around because the sunk cost. It's interesting, right? You just gotta look up the sunk cost theory, right? And the last thing is like when people buy investments, let's say the price of Ethereum or whatever stock is like at, I don't know, 4K or something like that. And you're like, well, let me just buy some here. And then it goes to 3, and you're like, I must buy some here because I'm already invested into it. It's like you can cut your losses, you know this, right? But then people will buy it at 2K. And then people will buy it at 1K. And people will buy it all the way to the ground until it goes to 0. And then they'll be like, wow, I'm so invested in this, right? Like they just get so heavy in it. And this isn't like a dollar cost averaging thing. This is just, you feel like you have to keep going because you've already started. And you need to stop and think about it. Am I going the direction that's going to take me the fastest way to success? And if you're not, turn around, right? People will say, oh, these 4 years in school, now I just wasted 4 years. It's like every year after you're done school and you're not happy and it's not giving you the results that you want, every single year is wasted. You do this for 40 years. Right? 20 to 65. And you take the 4 years in school. What's wasted? Is it the 40 years? Or is it the 4 years? What do you want to waste? Right? It's like, oh, I don't want to be an engineer for 40 years. And then you do it for 40 years because you don't want to feel like these 4 years were wasted. It's like, this is the waste. Right? It's just, it's interesting. You got to get out of the sunk cost theory. It's like, I don't know, if I, like let's say my vehicle, right? It's like 5 or 10K. And if I gotta put 3K into it, right, every year, I want to get out of that. I don't want to keep investing in it for freaking 10 years, 20 years, right? Like, it's like, it's time to move on, right? It's time to turn around. You start going this way, you veer off to the right. You don't just be like, I'm going this way forever because this is the way that I started, so I must keep going. Like, we're making good time, right? Like, you got to go around the world again. But if you just turn around, come back to the timeline where we're happy, we're successful, we're debt-free, continue this path, you don't have this problem. And just, if you look up sunk cost fallacy, that's just something that I learned, is basically like, remember you can turn around. Remember you can cut your losses at any moment, right? So that's what I want to share with this video. Hope you guys kind of understand and what I'm sharing and showing in these videos. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks, and talk soon.